Welcome back, boys, girls, and NBs. We're continuing on with the LSAT trainer, and so we're starting with the multiplication section, lesson one, introduction. Um, Not much going on personally. Haven't really had any new developments. Just frustrating days at work. Getting tired of being treated like dog shit. So, yeah, I mean, like, it only steals my resolve to continue to study the LSAT and apply myself and hopefully apply to the college that I want to go to the university, so that I can get a law degree or a JD. And JD is the ultimate goal, but I mean, if I end up in a master's or other type of program, like, I guess that's just the way that it goes. But anyway, um, the ultimate goal is to read law, practice law, do that kind of thing. Also, late happy International Working Women's Day. It's a pretty important holiday. It was started by the Soviets, by women such as like Alexandra Kollontai. So, yeah, it's a pretty important piece of working class history that has been liberalized around the world. Capitalism in some way has overtaken it. And there was even an executive order now that Trump signed to recognize International Women's Day, like, officially in the United States. So, yeah, thoroughly liberalized, brought into the folds of the right wing, even. But International Working Women's Day recognizes the working class roots. And people and comrades should read up on Alexandra Kollontai and the women's movement in Russia, because there was a pretty lengthy one from the 1890s and through the revolution. So check that out, because even the 1905 revolution in Russia was primarily led by women workers in Russia. And I think they might have even been like textile workers of the day, or maybe agricultural workers also, because Russia was, even at the time of the revolution, still a pretty largely agrarian society. But other than that, like, can get into the reading here, because I'm gonna try to keep this about an hour today, but we'll see what happens, right? So anyway, let's get started. So multiplication trumps addition. As we remember from last time, there were an example of two brothers. One of them was Wilbur and the other was Wallace. Wilbur liked to do addition. He was kind of a simp in that way. He only saved $60,000 over the course of his career by stuffing it into his fucking mattress, while his brother Wallace invested his money and rode out into his retirement with $3 million, according to the book, over the course of 60 years, because he socked it away into accounts that grew by multiplying. So we're going to apply that type of foundation to studying the LSAT. We're gonna follow this book. We're gonna follow that method of not adding one lesson on top of another, but building from a base of understanding. So we're gonna take the entirety of logical reasoning, right? as a whole, not the entirety. I mean, but I mean like the concept as a whole, how it's presented in the LSAT, and then build that as a foundation, and then we're going to build on top of that our lessons, our speed, accuracy. So, and the same with reading comprehension. So let's get started here. Many students think of their preparation in terms of individual steps. For example, they prepare for logical reasoning by trying to master just one question type at a time. Most LSAT preparation systems conform to this learn by addition design approach. While learning by addition can certainly be effective and has been for thousands of students, learning by multiplication is always more effective and more efficient. For logical reasoning, we will start with the one skill that is most important for your success, your ability to critically evaluate the reasoning in an argument. For reading comprehension, we will begin by focusing on understanding and recognizing reasoning structure. As you'll soon see, the vast majority of reading comprehension questions will either directly or indirectly test your understanding of reasoning structure, and reading for organization rather than details will put you in the best position to answer questions. Once we have developed these strong core abilities, we will use them to sprout out a deep and varied skill set. Exactly as we were just talking about. So, yeah, we're out to build the core foundation, right? We're out to build something that can be fortified and built upon. And we're training our elephant, right? We're training our subconscious to recognize these patterns, to recognize the logical inputs, and look for the reasonable outputs, right? So, and because we want our subconscious to do the heavy lifting, we want our elephants to do the heavy lifting. We're the riders, the elephants keep us in motion and keep the work flowing. All right, so we had 5 essays, remember? So this is essay 4. Understanding strategies and experience are necessary, but not enough. What determines whether someone is a great surgeon? Is it her understanding of surgery? That's certainly a big part of it, but just because someone knows a lot about surgery doesn't mean that she will be a good surgeon. Is it the strategies that she chooses to employ? Again, good strategies are certainly necessary, but a good strategy poorly executed won't give the patient the results he hopes for, or maybe even impact their survivability on the table. Is it experience? Most surgeons need years of experience to reach a high level of competency, but experience alone doesn't make you a good surgeon, especially if you are consistently bad at surgery. Again, like you are how you train. So if your experience, has all been bad experience, like it hasn't been a good foundation of training the right way, you could have all of that experience. I mean, you could have years of bad experience and be incompetent because of it. So fortunately, the LSAT is far less challenging and far less stressful than surgery. Still, there are some similarities and takeaways. What defines a great surgeon? It's not how much she knows, and it's not her strategies nor her experience. What best defines a great surgeon is her ability to utilize her understanding, her strategies, and her experience to make decisions and to act correctly in the moment. And this is true of the LSAT as well. You need understanding, you need effective strategies, and you need experience, but ultimately, your result will be based on how well you are able to use all of this in the moment. There is a better way to think about what makes for a good LSAT test taker. A good LSAT test taker is one that has skills and effective habits. 5. Use skills and habits to gauge your readiness. We can define skill as your ability to utilize your understanding, talents, and experience. It's helpful to think of understanding, strategies, and experience as means to an end. They are useful when they combine to form and grow your skill set. As you invest time into preparing for the exam, you want to think about your improvement in terms of skills. I am now able to do X, and I am now able to recognize Y, and so on. And you want to gauge your readiness for the LSAT in terms of your skill set. I am ready for this reading comprehension challenge because I'm comfortable doing X. Or I am not confident about this logical reasoning question because I don't think I am accurate at doing Y, and so on. Thinking about your preparedness in terms of skill set will have numerous benefits for you along your training process. But there are 2 benefits that you should be aware of from the get-go. Using your skill set as your gauge will help you get rid of that "am I ready" uncertainty. For some exams we take in life, it's very easy for us to tell if we are ready for that test. If we go back to high school, if you knew how to spell the words that could show up on a spelling test, then you felt ready. However, let's imagine that you are preparing for a job interview. At what point would you feel ready? Do you think you could ever feel ready for, say, an intelligence test, an IQ test? If you think of the LSAT as being some sort of undefinable abstract exercise, like an IQ test, then you inevitably come up with arbitrary and indirect ways of gauging your preparedness. You say to yourself that you are ready because you've studied as hard as you can, or because you've done every practice exam, or finished a course, or gotten the best strategies from the most expensive guru. As you get closer and closer to the test, you will find yourself feeling more and more nervous about those because those are not objective and honest ways of gauging whether you are truly ready. The only honest gauge of your preparedness is your skill set and your habits. More on habits in just a bit. If you think about your prep in terms of your skills, I need to be able to find the conclusion of an argument. I need to be able to identify what's wrong with the author's reasoning. I need to be able to recognize an author's purpose, etc. Then there will be far less mystery in terms of whether you are truly ready or not. Thinking in terms of a skill set doesn't mean that you'll be perfect at the test, of course, but it will mean that you will have much clearer sense of what you are good at and increase the chances that the exam will go as you expect. This is a big deal. Most test takers suffer at least a small bit because of nervousness, and it is human nature to be more nervous when you are uncertain. You bring more certainty into the equation when you use your skill set as your gauge, and this will boost your confidence and give you a leg up on your competitors. Because that is one thing about the LSAT, is that it is a competitive exam. Um, you're being ranked against your peers that take it based on the scores, and also based from the previous experimental section of the test. So there's some weird ways that they weight the test, and then yeah, it's kind of rated on a curve too. It seems like if there's a lot of high scorers, then I mean like you'll probably still get a high score. You could probably even be close to 180, but the weight of it seems, or maybe I'm mistaken on that. I'd have to read up more on that to be honest. But there's definitely something to do, like with what Mike Kim said earlier in the last episode about the experimental section being a part of the weight of the new exam that students take to enter in the law school. So interesting stuff. Would like to actually learn a little bit more about how it's weighted, but and that's it's all beside the point. Anyway, we have some other sidebar notes on the previous page. So reasoning structure refers to the roles that various parts of the passage play relative to one another. Main point, opinion, and background are examples of the types of roles that are relevant to reasoning structure. An effective way to think about reasoning structure is to ask, why has the author written this part? Exactly. Yeah. It's a pretty important question. What was their intent? What was their reasoning, and maybe even previous background knowledge about the author, or context that was given that we can look into. But you're gonna find clues to that also in the passage that was written as to why, right? You don't have to have tons of background knowledge or experience or like any of the other kinds of things that we talked about already, right? You just gotta ask, why has the author written this part? If you can answer that question successfully, you can feel confident that you understand the reasoning structure. 4. Here's a riddle that I guarantee will stump almost all your friends and family. A father and his son get into a car accident. The man dies instantly, and the son gets taken to the emergency room. The surgeon takes one look down at him and says, "I can't operate on him. He's my son. How is this possible?" Having read the main body text, hopefully you are in a better position to see the right answer. The surgeon is the boy's mother. However, given this riddle to others, and you are far more likely to hear answers about gay parents and priests than you are about a mother who is a surgeon. Yeah, I've actually heard this riddle before, and quite a few number of years ago. And yeah, the person who told that riddle took great joy in pointing out that you didn't consider that his mother, that a woman could be the surgeon. So yeah, that's a great riddle, right? Your sexism. Of course, we all know that in real life there are plenty of female surgeons, but we shouldn't feel ashamed of getting tricked by such riddles. What it does show us is that our brains commonly take incorrect associations, such as surgeon equals man. The key to certain difficult LSAT questions is an ability to disassociate with such false associations. Or disassociate such false associations. Using your skill set as your gauge will help you make more effective use of your study time. We are far better at learning when there is a goal at the end of our learning process. This is true for all of us, and it's not an issue of willpower. It's an issue of human nature. That is part of the reason that babies are so good at learning. They learn because they want to be able to do things that are critically important, like walking and talking. I'm sure you see the truth of this in your own life. When you are eager to accomplish something and set off to learn in order to accomplish that thing, you are a far better student than when you learn simply for the sake of learning, a point that our primary schools consistently miss. And then there's a method here, USE or SUE, use or sue, however you want to spell it. But anyway, here is a great general breakdown of understanding strategies and experience that are all necessary for high level success. Understanding of the issues that underline the questions, the design of the test as a whole, strategies for handling specific challenges, completing entire sections, experience with, focus study on specific issues, taking entire sections and full exams. Thinking of the LSAT, let's say that you learn how to correctly understand a particular reasoning issue, and you give yourself a pat on the back and stop there. That understanding may or may not translate to better test performance. Same as if you happen to come upon a very effective way to solve a challenge type of reading comprehension question. Knowing this system may or may not translate to better test day performance. Learning about a particular issue or learning a particular strategy and then using that understanding or strategy to deal with the test specific challenges, applying your understanding is what will ensure long lasting improvement. When you learn concepts for the exam but don't apply them, or learn strategies but don't understand exactly how or why they work and don't practice applying them, you end up a far less efficient learner. The same goes for if you work on a problem or work on problem after problem, but don't think about the underlying structure of them or fail to figure out the most efficient and effective strategies for solving them correctly. Make the development of a skill set your end goal. Don't learn a concept just for the sake of learning it, or do a problem set just to get it done. Keep in mind that the purpose of what you are doing is to develop skills. Habits. Your skills have a direct impact on your performance, and you can think of your skill set as representing your ability to take the exam. The stronger your skill set, the more potential you have for a higher score. Now the question becomes, how can you ensure that you reach this potential? Strong habits. Simply put, your skills determine how high you can score, and your habits determine whether you will reach that potential or not. You can get better at the exam by carefully developing solid skills layer after layer, and by working to develop consistent and useful habits. And if you focus on these two things, and if you work diligently, something magical will happen. The test will get easier. I absolutely promise you of that. Questions will start making a lot more sense. You'll be able to predict answers more and more, and you'll find yourself far less reliant on me or any other teacher to tell you what is right or wrong. And this is going to start to happen quickly. We have a footnote on the previous page. Connection leads to success. So again, we're talking about the USE or SUE acronym. Understand, strategies, experience. We develop skills and habits when we account for all necessary components of the mastery process and when these critical components come together. when we understand the theory behind strategies, and when our strategies help us understand the exam better, when we get experience utilizing our strategies in a variety of contexts and use our experience to shape and define our strategies, and when we get the most out of our experiences because of our understanding and use our experiences to add that to that understanding. So it's a cycle, right? It's kind of a, there isn't one that feeds into the other. I mean, like, they all feed into each other, right? Um, of understanding strategies and experience. And then we have a head note on the next page. So, using skills and habits to judge readiness. Over my years of teaching standardized exams, I've heard variations of following statements again and again. I think I know everything there is to know, but I just don't feel ready. I know all of the best strategies, but I just don't feel ready. I've been studying for months and months, but I just don't feel ready. I thought I was ready because I finally understand everything, but the test felt much harder than I expected. I thought I was ready because I finally learned all of the best strategies, but the test felt much harder than I expected. I thought I was ready because I've been studying for months, but the test felt much harder than I expected. Don't let this happen to you. Don't let this happen to you. Using your skill set to gauge your preparation will help you feel more certain about your abilities, and it will make it more likely that the exam will go as you expect it will. Build your skill set and do it through the proper training. We're always drilling correctly. Drill correctly. Train your elephant. The key to success. I started this lesson by promising that I would reveal the key to success on the LSAT, and here it is. The best way to ensure success is to deserve it. You should want it, and you should work hard enough to deserve it, right? Because it's, like, even though we're developing these strategies, we're still, at the end of the day, putting in the work. We're putting in the time and effort to study, to build our understanding, so that we can develop strategies, and through those strategies increase our experience, and through increasing our experience build more understanding, and so it goes. Your skills and your habits will determine how well you perform on the test day. These skills and habits do not come cheap. They require a great deal of desire and effort. You cannot beat the LSAT by learning clever tricks, and you can not make up for months of not studying by cramming for a couple of weeks. This test is simply too well constructed and challenging. The LSAT is not, as many commonly believe, simply a test of certain natural abilities in the way that an IQ test is arguably meant to be. Which, and there's some argument to that. I mean, historically, and particularly in the United States and Europe, IQ tests have been racist constructs, or at least, if not outright racist constructs, they've reinforced racism because, for obvious reasons, in those, like in those regions of Europe and North America, white test takers are going to score higher because they have access to better nutrition, better education environments, uh, I'm not certain. I mean, like, you could probably say that because of the economic environments that a lot of white families come from, that their families are more stable. So that like all of that contributes to like a children and like a child's mental development, emotional development, psychological development, to be able to perform better on these IQ tests than those from racial minorities in Europe and North America. So, um, with some exceptions, right? I mean, there are individuals that rise above that, uh, and there are certain groups that, um, on average, score better than white populations, even. So, um, but overall, IQ tests have, like it's quote unquote, like the natural ability of somebody's, like development and their intelligence, right? But IQ tests can change based on your stress level and and in certain ways your preparedness for the test. Um, as a part also from like being taught those strategies, right, of reasoning. So anyway, like not gonna belabor the point any further, but yeah, the IQ tests aren't the benchmark for intelligence that people think that they are. The LSAT is actually an exam that almost anyone can get much better at. People can get better at their IQ exam. People can get better at IQ tests also by retaking the test, especially like like standardized tests with and especially like and I've noticed this with certain tests that I've taken that there's sometimes not very much variation in the IQ test. So even if you have like a mediocre score on your first attempt, I mean, like, if you're a sharp learner and you recognize your mistakes from your previous score, you can go back and get a much higher score on your on your IQ test. And it's the same with the LSAT, I suppose. But it seems that there's much more variation, and the way that it seems that the LSAT is constructed is that it's a different test every time, right? There's an experimental section that is used to construct the next test. So anyway, but you can get better at it. It is the test that rewards those who make the effort to get better at it. I've seen this to be true again and again with the students I've worked with personally. And, like, this is also true with my friend who has already taken the LSAT and is set to enroll at one of the universities here in Michigan. And yeah, he took the LSAT, I think, like a couple years ago or something like that. And he didn't make the cut the first time as far as like his score went for getting into the school that he wanted. So he took it again, like this. I think it had to have been this past year, and yeah, he scored much higher and got into the school he wants. So good for him, right? You can get better at this test. You just need to like study more, build build those skill sets, right? We're building on a foundation of skill, and and that skill is going to be the foundation that carries us, like carries me, that skill set through our legal careers of like deconstructing arguments, looking at the intent of authors, looking at what and why something was written, right? So, and looking at, how, and we're using common language and like a pretty well defined use of the common language. So, getting really good at the LSAT is not that different from getting into great shape by working out. Some of us naturally start off in better shape than others, but in time, those with better habits and perspective generally not only make up for any lack of natural ability, they commonly end up with just as high a ceiling as those who started off a bit ahead. For the LSAT, you can start off at 140 and get to 170, or you can start off at 160 and end up at 160. You can't determine where you begin, but what you do or don't do to prepare what will determine where your score ends up. There is no magic formula to getting in shape. You have to do the physical work. You want to get in shape? You have to do the exercise. You have to lift the weights. You have to get your running shoes on or get on that bike, right? It's not going to happen without putting in the work, without doing the effort. There is no magical formula to getting better at the LSAT either. The best way to ensure success is to deserve it. What does it mean to be deserving of success? I'm sure you have a very good idea, and I'm sure it's similar to what's in my head. It involves hard, earnest work and honest self reflection. You can master the LSAT. I know you can, but it's not easy, and it requires the right mindset. Work on developing the right skills and the right habits, and be consistent in your study efforts. Ensure that you get the most out of your prep and that your prep is truly getting you ready for the exam. This book is unique among the LSAT systems that are available in that it is built upon the five fundamental tenets that we've just discussed. This book is designed to help you learn concepts simply and correctly, to relate these concepts to the optimum strategies, and most importantly, to help you turn your understanding and strategies into skills and habits. The trainer will lead you to do the smart, earnest, dedicated work that will leave you far more prepared and far more deserving of success than just about anyone else on test day. And those five mantras, those five lessons are: equate smart with simple, focus on what to think about, not what to think. We're looking at the conditions in front of it. We're materialists, right? We're doing material analysis. We're looking at the material conditions. We're thinking, focus on what to think about, not what to think. Utilize the power of compound learning. Understanding strategies and experience are necessary, but not enough. Skills and habits determine outcome. The road ahead. Now that we have discussed the five basic tenets that should shape your thinking about how to prepare for the LSAT, let's briefly discuss the road that lies ahead of us. This book is organized into 27 different lessons, each meant to take between an hour and an hour and a half. Perfect, because that's what we're aiming for these videos, right? I mean, well, it could be that an hour lesson turns into an hour and a half of recording, and that an hour and a half lesson maybe goes over 2 hours. So be prepared for that if you are tuning in regularly, if you're interested in my journey through this study session, getting ready for the LSAT, thank you for watching, first of all. But also, I hope that you get something from this, that my voice doesn't annoy you, or my mannerisms, or my way of speaking, because sometimes I do pause while I'm speaking. Um, yeah, it's just something that, I mean, it's just the way that I talk. So, but if you focus on, like what's being said rather than how I'm saying it, then kudos to you, because you're the type of person that I tend to respect anyway. The people that I don't respect in my life, the people that I tend to think more harshly of, are the people who focus on the way that I talk and maybe some of my mannerisms rather than like what I'm trying to say to them. So thank you again. And yeah, anyway, an hour to an hour and a half, perfect. You know, probably going to end up being an hour and a half to 2 hours possibly. So again, let's continue forward. These lessons are ideally meant to be done in conjunction with official practice questions and exams from LSAC's Law Hub online question bank or their printed books. That's a great resource. Tune in to LSAC, go to their website, look at their materials, look at their stuff, because it does help prepare students for the LSAT. I mean, LSAC uh, is the organization that it is because they don't want to gatekeep. They're there to help students succeed. The reason why students don't succeed is because they don't follow the five mantras, right? They don't do the work to prepare themselves properly for the LSAT. So, using clear, simple instruction, effective drills, and carefully chosen sample questions, we will work to develop a skill set that will leave you feeling confident and in control when you take the LSAT. We will use the next two lessons to introduce each of the different types of sections that appear on the exam: logical reasoning and reading comprehension. Following that, we will focus for a few lessons on just one section type at a time. We'll start by spending 5 lessons discussing logical reasoning. We'll conclude the book with some lessons that will bring together everything that we have learned. And as I just mentioned, I suggest using this book in conjunction with official questions and exams offered by the LSAC. I recommend using these official materials to do specific drill work and for full practice exams. As a side note, I know a lot of people are skeptical of the AI programs of DeepThink or of OpenAI. But what I'd like to say too is that you can construct your prompts in such a way that provide you with these types of lessons also, right? That will build certain types of lessons for you based on your prompt, right? So you have to know how to construct prompts a little bit, but and will also generate questions for you with answers that you can study from. So using AI can be an effective strategy if you know how to use it right. So that's something else to keep in mind. And after all, like, we're not trying to moralize AI or to say that it's good or bad or right or wrong or whatever, because it can be useful. So we're materialists. We think about that, like in certain ways, like people have come to over rely on it like a bit too much, but in certain regards, like it's a tool like any other tool. When it's used properly, it's a multiplier, right? We're trying to multiply our efforts, not, like try to lift that tree trunk by ourselves. We have an elephant to do it for us. And maybe even an elephant with some uh, mechanical fixations. Who knows, right? So anyway, like let's uh, let's see here. At the beginning of your studies, your emphasis will be on developing your understanding and your strategies. So you will be spending the bulk of your time in the trainer. Later in your studies, when your emphasis will be on firming up effective habits, the bulk of your study time will be spent practicing and reviewing practice questions and full exams. Your study schedule, to be discussed shortly, will detail how to combine the trainer with your additional practice. Remember, LSAC is your friend. Your LSAC is your friend way more than AI is, by the way. Don't rely on AI. Rely on the official study material from LSAC. Supplement with AI, right? It's a supplement, not our main go to. Let's get ready to study. I hope you enjoyed the relaxing read that this lesson presented. The truth is, the next two introductory lessons will also be mostly reading. After that, however, you better be ready to exercise those mental muscles. The rest of this book is going to be about you doing the work necessary to build up those skills and habits. Preparing for the LSAT, just getting through this book, in fact, is going to take a whole lot of effort on your part. Let's make sure you are well organized as you begin your study process so you can get off to a good start and stay on track. To that end, there to that end, here are the two steps for you to take to finish off your work for today. 1. Set up your study schedule. And AI can help with this too. I mean, like when given the correct prompt and like the correct guidelines, AI can set up a very effective schedule for you. But you must enter it. But you must know how to interact with it, right, and give the correct information. Because otherwise, yeah, I mean, it'll generate something for you that might be wildly inefficient or wrong for you. So learn how to think about your intent and how you want to apply your experience. I mean, like in anything, right? Like in the LSAT, even think about you got to use your fucking brain. You gotta you gotta use this gray matter. Think about what you're doing, and you'll be a lot more successful. All right, setting up the study schedule. If you go to the trainer website, the lsattrainer.com, LSATTRAINER.com, you will see a variety of study schedules available for download. These schedules are set up to account for different study timelines, and they provide specific instructions about how to incorporate your trainer work with practice using official guide questions. Go ahead and select a study schedule and fill in the assignments as per the instructions. Every student is different, but in general, I suggest that you limit yourself to one lesson each time you sit down to study. It's a good it's a good rule of thumb, to be honest, because overload and overworking generally doesn't help. It might even be a detriment. If you do want to study more than one lesson in one day, I suggest that you plan your study periods for different parts of the day, perhaps one lesson in the morning and one in the evening, so that you give yourself some time to rest and massage your brain a little bit with like some different activities, like maybe even like before work and after work, so that like as you go about your day, like your subconscious thinks about these things rather than it being bombarded by like rather than your conscious trying to like do all that heavy lifting all the time. Part of that's about training your unconscious throughout the day to think, like to mull over what you learned, and then maybe you can come back to it later, but it's definitely part of the learning process is repeating it back to yourself and having having internal dialogue in those kind of conversations. I mean, it's probably why introverts sometimes are better at study than extroverts. I mean, like it's not necessarily true, but introverts tend to have that kind of internal dialogue a lot more with themselves than uh, extroverts do. And I mean, like it does seem to be one of those things that you learn by experience too, by talking with different people and like uh, getting to know them a little bit in your work environment and seeing like how they interact with that how they interact with their environment, like when they're alone, and then how they interact with others. So anyway, so neither here nor there, I guess, but one lesson a day is probably a good rule of thumb. If you do more than one, like the book says, try to split them up so that you're not doing all that heavy lifting all the time. All right. Anyway, to set up your notebook, you are soon going to be absorbing a lot of information. And you are also, throughout this process, going to be constantly reevaluating how you think about and solve questions. A notebook is a great tool to have for both organizing the new things that you learn and keeping a record of the thought processes you have on various questions. As part of this vlog, I guess you could say, I can set up my camera in such a way that, or my interactive space here in such a way that we can take notes in real time as we're studying and vlog the whole experience so that we can learn together. I hope if you're watching this channel that you'll give me feedback and talk about your own experiences and yeah, just contribute. It's part of these social spaces online is that people like to voice their opinions and to give context or insight into something that's deeply personal to them, but doesn't necessarily contribute to the topic at hand. Let's keep it topical, right? The topic is the LSAT. The topic is your experience in legal studies. So let's talk about how we can sharpen those things, and especially for other Marxists. This is intended for Marxists. This is intended for leftists. I think that anybody can get what they want out of this, whether you're a reactionary shithead or a dumbass liberal that thinks they can ride in the center, right? But I mean, I'm biased. That's those are my political biases. I think that liberals are dumb and reactionaries may not be dumb, but they have their own agendas that I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, we're all here to study and learn. So politics aside, keep it constructive if you want to participate. If you don't want to keep it constructive and you want to be a reactionary shithead or a political idiot or a liberal idiot, then I may or may not censor you. It's my right on this vlog, so I reserve my rights to censor people based on how much of a fucking idiot they are. So anyway, yeah. So notebooking is a great uh, way to track your progress, to construct ideas, and to enhance your memory. Uh, we'll be going over those things on screen here through a document, and we'll type them out. And I'll type them out as we go along. On the LSATtrainer.com, there is a notebook organizer file that you can download. Oh, maybe we'll go to that and take a look at it. I'll definitely be doing that. Not on video, just so I don't record anything that I don't want recorded. I mean, like, I could edit these videos and take that kind of thing out and blur anything or remove any frames that might potentially reveal personal information. But part of my goal with these videos, and I've stated this in the very first video that I made recently, going over like the introduction to the FRSO program, is that these are largely going to be unedited because I want to build my skill in talking and talking well. And that's going to, and this vlog experience is going to be part of that, about going back and reviewing my speaking mistakes, my logical mistakes, my errors in reading comprehension, any other errors in judgment that I make, because I'm only a human being, right? You know, like, and we have a computer at our disposal, so it really have the potential to fuck things up, right? So, but overall, yeah, I want to really not edit these videos the way that a lot of other videos that are posted to YouTube get edited and polished for their viewerships and advertising and any of the other ways that, you know, people try to appeal to their audiences, right? And I mean, I do want to appeal to the audience that comes here. Don't get me wrong, but this is primarily for my benefit, right? Just so we have an understanding here. And that benefit is for me to review my skills and improve upon them. So anyway, yeah, the LSATtrainer.com has a notebook organizer that you can download. And you can, of course, also easily set up your own notebook to your liking. I suggest that in any case, you make sure to, number one, clearly label each page of work, ideally with a date and other information such as question numbers or lesson number, so that you can more easily refer back to previous work if needed. Those will also go in the titles of these vlog videos. I think that's an effective way to record and track what we're doing here. Number two, separate your work for logical reasoning and reading comprehension, or get separate folders for each. Since we're doing this online, we'll just have to make sure that we label everything correctly. I could make playlists. That could be a strategy. We'll see how it goes. but playlists might be something that we can do. 3. Use a 3-ring binder or some other system that allows you to move around, add, and get rid of pages. And this is all going to be online, so well, not 100% online, but nearly mostly online. So yeah, get yourself a 3-ring binder if that's what you like. I might not do that simply because I'm not going to be printing a lot of things, and I think it's more effective to organize things into folders and playlists and different strategies that are available through the information technology that we have rather than hard copies. All right, footnote, and this is the last part of this chapter. Signing up for the exam. The LSAT is administered multiple times per year, generally at least once every month or two. As far as I know, on the LSAT, the next one is June, and that's the one I'm preparing for. So today is March 10th as I'm recording this now. I'd have to look at what the exact date is in June, but I think that it's pretty much like exactly 3 months from now. So if you're following along with this from today, March 10th, we have 3 months to prepare for the LSAT with the materials in front of us. So you are allowed to sit for 5 times in this current reportable period. It's a lot of that's a lot of times, especially since the LSAT, according to LSAC, is $238 per sitting. So I mean, like, you're looking at spending some Mondo dollars on it if you're sitting 5 times in a period. But yeah. Anyway, let's try to get it one and done, baby. And 7 times over your lifetime. So if you don't get it in 7 times, then you're probably not cut out for this kind of thing. Most schools only consider your highest LSAT score, but you should check with the individual schools that you are interested in. As of this writing, the registration is $238. Yeah, that's like I said. That's what I saw on the LSAC site. So there is a fee waiver program available for students with financial need. Find more information and register for the exam at www.lsac.org. LSAC.org. All right, that's all for today. Yeah, we got about an hour in. Very good. That's what I was expecting. Get yourself a binder, a notebook. Download the information from lsattrainer.com and be safe. Catch y'all next time. Bye bye.